Hello and welcome once again to the Crabbie's Changing Room Chat. This week we are joined by two internationals who played in the game ahead of Friday night. We're showing the 1995 game against France. John Manson, I'll start with you before we go to the legend that is Bryan Redpath, because your memories of the games are probably slightly different. And John, you'd have been done. In fact, John, you talk us through your memory of the game.
Well, first of all, I never played in it. Let's get that straight.
Right, okay.
I never played in the game, but I was lucky. That was my first involvement with the national team I got. And we've spoken about this before in other chats, where on a Wednesday night, the forwards used to have a live session before the international on the Saturday. And it was, and Brush will probably go into some of the characters, it was a bunch of reprobates that were brought in to give the Scotland pack a bit of a live session. So I was brought in that Wednesday night. I worked at the side dockyard at the time, took a half shift off the dockyard, came in, had a scrummaging session, and Paul Burnell, Archie, pulled his calf. So I got pulled into the bench for that weekend. So I've got great memories. But as I say, I never got off the pine. But I remember Brush was at that time incredible player, massive part of the team. And a big part of what went on that weekend.
So, Brush, what about your memories of that game? Do you remember John Manson getting pulled in on a Friday night?
Yeah, I did. I remember the Wednesday. I remember, as he mentions, all the reprobates, and probably John himself, Kev McKenzie, Stuart Reid. There was many people in there with a bit of a chip on their shoulder about having a dig on the lads, and we always used to be very alive and lively on the Wednesday, and the scrum half and standoff used to come in, and we used to have the live scrums against each other, and it was just it was a bit mad. So it was great, but the actual game itself was just an amazing experience. That was my first time playing in the old Parc de France. People forget it was only 45,000 in that stadium then, and the noise and the atmosphere, because the whole French, I think there's been some clips of the game from coming out the tunnel, and you see the Scottish lads all pretty relaxed and not that sweaty. Then you look across the tunnel and the French team coming out were going ballistic, and that was my first real experience of it. But it was an amazing game, and I remember the score swinging back and forward, and then obviously Gregor having I think it was a slide kick or something that they eventually scored off, and then Gavin saying in that game that don't worry, we'll score next, sort of thing, under the posts, and we eventually did, with a little flick from Gregor and Gavin running. I'll give him the 55 metres to score under the sticks,
55 metres, that sounds like one of mine. So, I mean, that was a big moment in that game, and a moment that was talked about a lot, that flick. And it loved what Gregor probably still does, and people will be looking out for it. But I mean, you've played with Gregor many, many times. He was clearly capable of doing some special things. Yeah,
I mean, he was. I played against him as a 17, 18-year-old for Melrose v Gala, and he was a big lad then for his age, and he's quick, and that was always one of his assets, his speed. But it was his freedom, how he played, was exceptional, and he could do some daft things, and he could do some things that you were thinking, where was the structure in anything he did? But he was one of the rare talents that Scotland bred as the most natural players around there, and and him playing, and then you've got the counterbalance with Craig, Chalmers as well, who was more stereotyped. But Chick was probably just steered everybody around a bit. Gregor had that freedom to play, and he certainly was a massive benefit in our team at that time.
John, talk us through your week, because you must have then gone back after a Wednesday night to the Side Dockyards and said to the gaffer, I need a couple of days off and play again for Scotland.
That's exactly, and it's a great. It'll be interesting to see the youngsters that watch this game, and they maybe don't realise what it was like back in that era. That was the last amateur Five Nations at the time. So that's exactly what I'd done. I was told I was on the flight the next day to France, and I drove back over the Forth Road Bridge to Rosyth, went into my gaffer's office, put in my leave card and said, I'll see you Monday. And that's what I did. I was involved in the game, and then Monday morning I was back at the dockyard again, putting a ship in as a Sparky. So it was completely different times, great times as well. And another thing, in talking about Gregor and great players, the one thing for me I remember about that is I shared a room with Doddy Weir. He was my roommate, and that was my first insight into the big fella properly. And it was just, you can imagine. And he was on the bench, Brush, so he had a bit of time on his hands.
Oh, no.
And that's probably not a good thing for the big man.
Yeah, well, you know, I remember playing table tennis with Gregor till about 1:15 in the morning, just because we wanted to make sure nobody would go away with winning. And it was like, no, one more game. And, you know, as you said, I left the building site in Gala Shields must have been about 4:30, 5 o'clock. So I was a joiner and I worked on the building site, self-employed, and same sort of thing. I left at 4:30, 5, drove up, stayed up, you know, overnight on the Wednesday night, because, you know, obviously was in the squad, and then returned on the Sunday to the building site on the Monday. So it was a total, you know, strange time in our lives when we were going from just being normal working blokes in the trades, generally a lot of us, to suddenly, you know, going to the World Cup as it led on to after that, and then getting the first contract, you know, for in a whole year to suddenly be a self-employed joiner, playing in a massive game like that, going to a World Cup, and then off the back of that, turning professional virtually.
Another thing, Brush, I'll to take you back to the game for a second, and a couple of things that I watched the highlights last night, and again, this is something that the youngsters won't appreciate. You actually played the game with one of those Adidas brown leather balls. And fortunately, it was a sunny day and it was a nice day. But maybe give everyone a bit of an insight into what those Adidas balls were like back then, and maybe if it rained, what they were like.
Well, even training with them, and we obviously got one to train with, and it was generally wet prior to going across. But it was just like you know, when it got wet, it got skiddy and slippy, and it was round. It was great for punting and box kicking because there's a big circulated sort of ball. It wasn't long oval, and yeah, we were fortunate that day. It was dry, and I tell you what else, I got my top ripped off. I got caught in a rack, and I got my top ripped off, and the top I was given was a 48, and that was the largest top because there was. And you should see it, and there's no number on the back.
That's my next
It's the longest top, and I put it on, and I took my shorts up, and it was sticking out the bottom. Honestly, you watch the game, and you'll see.
That's my next point.
I look about 10 years old. Honestly,
when Santandré scores his second try, you're chasing him back, right? You're chasing him back. I'm telling you, if you'd have been wearing your number 9 jersey, you'd have caught him. It was like
Dave McLean was delighted with the parachute that I had on my back.
You're right, it's massive. What can you remember about the function in France?
I can remember about the plates being smashed on the chest. He used to get the knives. He used to get the knives with the really big sort of end of the knife. So, and Scott had smashed one of the new caps plate that was sat at the table like that, and it just shattered. So there was guys picking up the plate and putting it on their chest, and Scott just whacked it on their chest, and it ended up being smashed. And we're like, oh, let's sort of hide it under the table. And then obviously the dinner itself, because obviously the French dinners were separate anyway. And I remember going back to the hotel, and I think Gavin leaned against a cabinet or something as well, with all these ornaments in the hotel, and then just each shelf just came down, smashed at the time, and Arthur Hasty was going, oh, Gav. And then I do remember the sofa being in the lift, and then sitting outside the sofa drinking whiskey like about, I don't know what time, but I remember Rob Wainwright singing, and the sofa being just as you come out the lift doors on that one floor, and all the lads were all there sitting around singing.
But Friday's night's game is one example of how good the rugby was back then, and it'll be a fantastic game to watch. Brushy, it's been an absolute pleasure to get your memories on it, and you as well, John, to hear your insight into that game. So thanks very much, guys.